back to Devans Biology. Today we are going to start a new video series on respiration in plants. We have already completed a video series on photosynthesis, as well as we have discussed many previous NEET year questions on photosynthesis. Today in this video we will discuss the basic concept of respiration, as well as we will have a brief look on the mechanism of respiration. While teaching, what I have noticed is students mostly gets confused between the two terms, that is breathing and respiration. So let us first of all clarify these two terms. Breathing is actually a biological process. Breathing is a biological process of exchange of gases or inhaling and exhaling of gases. Exchange of gases between the cell and the environment. While in case of respiration, it is a chemical process which occurs within the cell. So it's a cellular process in which complex organic molecules gets break down into simpler ones with the release of energy. The energy released is in the form of ATP, while in case of breathing, no energy is released. Now let us have a detailed look on the term respiration. Respiration is actually a biological oxidation of organic molecule, that is breaking of carbon-carbon bond and release of energy in the form of ATP. The energy stored in ATP is then later utilized for further reactions in the body. Now the compound which is undergoing biological oxidation, that compound is known as respiratory substrate. The respiratory substrate can be carbohydrate, fats, proteins, organic acids. The most preferred substrate is carbohydrate. Now let us have a look at respiratory ratio. Now what is a respiratory ratio? Respiratory ratio is also known as respiratory quotient. Now in photosynthesis, you know that plants take in carbon dioxide and give out oxygen, while in respiration, plants take in oxygen and give out carbon dioxide. So respiratory ratio is a ratio of volume of carbon dioxide released to the volume of oxygen absorbed. This respiratory ratio actually depends on the nature of the substrate. The respiratory quotient can be equal to unity, more than unity, or less than unity. In case of respiratory quotient equal to unity, have a look at this reaction. This is a very common reaction of respiration. This is the basic reaction actually of respiration, in which carbohydrate undergoes oxidation to release carbon dioxide and water as well as energy. Now if we are talking about respiratory quotient, then it is a ratio of volume of carbon dioxide released to the volume of oxygen used. So it is 1, that is equal to unity. In case of respiration of fats and proteins and respiration of succulent plants and red-leaved plants, the respiratory ratio is less than unity. RQ of seeds, in which the stored food is in the form of liquid oil or fats, in those seeds RQ is less than 1. For example, this is a tripalmitic acid. This is a triglyceride of palmitic acid, or it is tripalmitin. In this case, RQ is equal to the volume of carbon dioxide by the volume of oxygen. It is less than unity. In succulent plants like Opuntia, the carbohydrates are not completely oxidized to carbon dioxide and water. Instead, they are oxidized to organic acid. For example, the carbohydrate, when undergoes oxidation in case of succulent plants, it releases malic acid and water. It does not release carbon dioxide. So what will be the RQ? Carbon dioxide 0 by 3. 3 is what? Volume of oxygen. So it's 0. Again less than unity. Now in case of red-leaved plants, the leaves are red because of the presence of anthocyanin in it. In those plants, again there is accumulation of organic acids in it, due to which the RQ is less than unity. Now let us take an example in which RQ is more than unity. Respiration of maturing fatty seeds. In maturing fatty seeds, the RQ is more than unity. More than unity indicates overfeeding. Right? In case of maturing fatty seeds, the carbohydrate simply gets converted into fats and oxygen is released internally. So this oxygen is actually used for the oxidation purpose. Similarly, in case of organic acids, in some succulent plants, these organic acids acts as a respiratory substrates. So in those cases, the organic acids, the RQ of organic acids is more than unity because there is large volume of oxygen present in their molecules. So this oxygen is used for further oxidation of carbohydrates. So the external oxygen is not required. While in definition of RQ, it is the oxygen absorbed from the environment. In this case, oxygen is already there in their molecules, which is being utilized. Let us take example. This is malic acid. Malic acid, when gets oxidized, it releases carbon dioxide and water. But carbon dioxide released is more than the volume of oxygen utilized because oxygen was already there in their molecules. So it is not absorbed from the atmosphere. So RQ is more than 1. Similar is the case with anaerobic respiration, in which RQ is more than 1. In anaerobic respiration, oxygen is not at all utilized. Anaerobic respiration means respiration in the absence of oxygen. So oxygen is not at all utilized. In the presence of zymase enzyme, carbohydrate gets converted into ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide and energy is released, but no oxygen is utilized. So what will be the RQ? No oxygen. Sorry. Carbon dioxide divided by no oxygen. So obviously it's more than 1. Okay. Now let us have a look at the types of respiration. On the basis of respiratory substrate which is being used, the respiration can be divided into floating respiration and protoplasmic respiration. In case of floating respiration, the respiratory substrate is carbohydrate or fat. Protoplasmic respiration, the respiratory substrate is protein. Respiratory substrate becomes protein when there is shortage of carbohydrate. Right. Now on the basis of presence or absence of oxygen, again respiration is divided into aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration, in case of aerobic respiration, oxygen is being used and glucose or carbohydrate is fully oxidized into carbon dioxide and water with the release of energy. But in case of anaerobic respiration, there is incomplete oxidation of carbohydrate. In any case, all living organisms retain the enzymatic machinery to partially oxidize glucose. This partial oxidation of glucose is done in the process known as glycolysis. Now let us have a look at the mechanism of, let us have a brief look at the mechanism of respiration. In the subsequent videos, we will take each and every stage of the respiration in detail. There are actually 4 stages in which respiration is being completed. The first stage is in which one molecule of glucose is partially oxidized to pyruvic acid. This partial oxidation process is known as glycolysis. Detailed process of this glycolysis will be done in next video. In the meantime, total 8 ATPs are formed and 4 hydrogen atoms are released, which move towards the 4th stage. Right? Now, when pyruvic acid is formed, one molecule of glucose forms 2 molecules of pyruvic acid. Glucose is 6 carbon compound, pyruvic acid is a 3 carbon compound. Now pyruvic acid has three fates. Either it will get aerobic condition or it will get anaerobic condition. In case of anaerobic condition, it will go fermentation. Two types of fermentation may happen. First is alcoholic fermentation. In anaerobic conditions, pyruvic acid gets converted into ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide and energy will be released. Or otherwise, lactic acid fermentation will occur, in which pyruvic acid gets converted into lactic acid and energy will be released. In the third case, pyruvic acid will get aerobic conditions and it will form two molecules of acetyl coenzyme A. In this case, pyruvic acid will get transported from cytoplasm to mitochondria. Actually, this glycolysis occurs in cytoplasm of the cell. And the next stage is in aerobic conditions, pyruvic acid gets transported to mitochondria of the cell, mitochondrial matrix. Pyruvic acid gets converted into acetyl coenzyme A. That is the second stage, which is known as pyruvic acid oxidation, or it is also known as oxidative decarboxylation. Right? This is the second stage. In the second stage, 6 ATPs are total formed and 4 hydrogen atoms are released and they move towards fourth stage. Now, in the third stage, it is known as Krebs cycle. Third one is known as Krebs cycle or citric acid cycle, in which this acetyl coenzyme A undergoes condensation with oxaloacetic acid to form citrate. And after many steps, the oxaloacetic acid will be regenerated. In the meantime, 24 ATPs will be formed and 16 hydrogen atoms will be transported to the fourth stage. Now, the fourth stage is, this second and third stages occur inside the mitochondrial matrix, and the fourth stage is oxidative phosphorylation. Oxidative phosphorylation. Phosphorylation means formation of ATP. Formation of ATP with the utilization of oxygen. So, this stage is known as oxidative phosphorylation, which is actually electron transport system, electron transfer system. We have seen that many hydrogen atoms are being transported, released to mitochondrial inner membrane. So, this fourth stage occurs in mitochondrial inner membrane of mitochondria. Right? Now, these hydrogen atoms, they get transferred to mitochondrial inner membrane, in which this oxidative phosphorylation will occur. ATP will be formed with the help of ADP and inorganic phosphate. And these hydrogen atoms and oxygen, they will form water. So, this is the summary of respiration. In the subsequent videos, we will take each and every step in full detail. I hope you might have understood this mechanism of respiration, as well as conceptually you are clear with the topic respiration. Thank you.